This is how modern colonization works in Hawaii and in Puerto Rico. Pay attention.
The tourists may bring in the money, but their sheer numbers overwhelm native Hawaiians.
7 million tourists compares to about 1.25 million residents, of which a quarter, about 180,000 to 200,000, are American military. So of the people who actually live here and aren't transient with the military, there are only 1 million. And of that, Hawaiians are about 20% of the population. So relative to the native people here, there are 30 tourists for every native person. And of that, the large number is between 6 and 7 million.
And the effect of this is most felt in the acquisition of land for golf courses. Native Hawaiians are now fighting back.
Well, right now, Hawaiians control less than 2% of all the land in Hawaii, and that's not counting the estates, but individual fee holders. The Japanese, for example, control over 1/5 of Waikiki. Some estimates put it as high as half, as 50%. They are buying up and creating golf courses on this island. This island is about 95 miles around at its circumference and about 45, 50 miles across at its largest point. There are 60 golf courses scheduled or built on this island. Most of them private. The Japanese buy golf courses, sell the memberships in Japan, flood the area with their own people. They only hire Japanese-speaking help, so there are no jobs that accrue from this. Golf courses are enormously polluting. They're environmentally very destructive. They have the highest concentration of insecticides and pesticides that flows out into our water. Areas, the bay flows down into the water table, so it's overall it's a very destructive development. And I might say that the island people in the South Pacific should be very observant of Hawaii, because that's what's blueprinted for them. That's what's happening to Saipan and Rota and Tahiti, that Fiji, that whole idea that the Japanese can come, buy, build, rape, bring all their tourists, and then when the water runs out, or when the fish start dying, or when the pollution is overwhelming, or the smell is terrible, they all evacuate. In 1900, Hawaii was annexed. We became citizens whether we wanted to or not. No one asked us. There was no referendum, no discussion, nothing. So I am a citizen. I do have a passport. But as far as human rights are concerned, I was never asked whether I wanted to be a citizen or whether the United States had any right to make me a citizen or to be here.
So what are you?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a patriot of the Hawaiian Nation. The Hawaiian Nation burns in our hearts. It's still alive. It's right here on my land. The focus of Hawaiians essentially is to rebase their culture on the land, and whether that entails, land occupations or legal cases. Then beyond that, there's a larger movement to reestablish a Hawaiian government.
I have multiple properties in Puerto Rico to then rent them out on Airbnb. In his study, Santiago Bartolome found that just 10 hosts had a combined total of more than 600 properties listed, making almost $18 million in 1 year.
Whatever money is accrued stays mainly with the property owner. And very, 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 very little actually trickles out to the rest of the community.
So all these houses you need for super cheap, and people are starting to figure that out.
This is Diane Cohn's YouTube channel.
He's going to show us all the hot places today.
She moved to Puerto Rico in 2014.
Pretty much it was a combination of midlife crisis and tax benefits.
She also got a tax break under Act 22. She moved back to the States shortly after Hurricane Maria, but she has continued to make videos about her experience in Puerto Rico.
Every once in a while, I'd come back to Puerto Rico just because that's what the algorithm rewarded me for. Because every time I did something in Puerto Rico, I'd get views and subscribers and comments and all the interaction that any creator wants on their channel.
Wow, look at this page.
A few months ago, she posted a video that received backlash in the comment section.
It was kind of a punch to the gut. I'm like, wow, people are really upset, and I was thinking, well, this was not my intention. It's not my intention to exploit Puerto Rico. But, it's not something I really thought about either until they pointed out that point of view. To get in a car with a realtor and to drive around and just say, hey, where are the good deals? Where's the opportunity? That's just, I don't know. That's just how people look at real estate.
And this is when you want to buy.
Right.
This is when it looks like this.
In the video, she talked about the real estate opportunities in Isabela, the town next to Quebradillas.
We're the best kept secrets in Puerto Rico. But the secret is getting out.
Not anymore.
Isabela is also the town where Suzette Quiroz was living with her partner and newborn baby. But when the landlord where she was renting was moving back into the house, they had a hard time finding another place they could afford.
I'm talking about this. You want to go back? You know what? Why not? You know what? If we are Puerto Rico libre, that's the way I feel. When we go back, What's going to happen to your black brothers that you've now made an association with and you're beginning to build?
As soon as we liberate Puerto Rico, they all could come to Puerto Rico. That's the way we told the Yankees, leave the island the same way you came. Leave it.
Wow, she was like the female Malcolm X of Hawaii. This is the realest speech I've ever heard in my fucking life. This is exactly how I feel about Puerto Rico. This is the realest shit I've ever heard. She broke it down, from start to finish. Pay attention.
That begins with the genocide of a native people and ends with an attempt to silence one of their survivors and fiercest defenders, namely myself. It is a story of white cultural and economic imperialism in its broadest outlines and of white hegemony and white racism on this campus. Specifically, it is a story of the politics of academic freedom as the politics of white racism. Let me tell you now, first, how a white foreign world, that is the world of the Haole, came to occupy the world of the native, that is the world of Hawaiians. In 1778, a white foreigner came to our land with a pestilential shipload of other foreigners. They wanted women, water, food, and general recreation, for which they gave Hawaiians syphilis, gonorrhea, tuberculosis, and ideas of predatory Christianity, capitalism, and individualism. 42 years later, in 1820, a different class of aggressive Haole, animated by the hatred of all things dark and sexual, brought measles, chickenpox, and a virulent determination to replace the Hawaiian world with the Haole world. They were called missionaries, and they were bent on conversion of my people and the dispossession of our lands and waters. By this time, that is 1820, 750,000 Hawaiians were dead, directly the result of the coming of the Haole. Conveniently for the missionaries, the Hawaiian universe had collapsed under the impact of mass death. The fertile field of conversion was littered with the remnants of Holocaust, a Holocaust created by Haole and celebrated by Haole as the will of a Christian God. By the 1880s, most of our lands were owned by these same white American foreigners who had convinced our chiefs that private property would give our people everlasting physical life. In 1893, when Hawaiians were but 5% of what they had been at contact, and when most of our arable lands were in the hands of foreigners, the American Marines invaded and occupied our country, overthrew and imprisoned our chiefly leaders, and forcibly took Hawaii. In 1898, we were annexed to the United States against the wishes of the Hawaiian people. By 1900, all Hawaiian language schools were closed, political and economic life was dictated by the Haole, and American institutions overtook the last vestiges of Hawaiian culture. From this point forward into the 20th century, Hawaiians became increasingly like other native peoples, conquered and subordinated in their own homeland. Now we suffer a declining population, continued land dispossession, and ongoing destruction of our cultural ways. As a nation and a people, Hawaiians are no longer self-determining. For Hawaiians, American colonialism has been a violent process. The violence of mass death, the violence of American missionizing, the violence of cultural destruction, the violence of the American military. Once the United States annexed my homeland, a new kind of violence took place. The violence of educational colonialism, where foreign Haole values replace Native Hawaiian values, where schools like the University of Hawaii ridicule Hawaiian culture and praise American culture, and where white men assume the mantle of authority, deciding what is taught, who can teach, even what can be said, written, and published. In Colony Hawaii, the university stands atop the educational pyramid of the state. People of color comprise over 70% of the student body, while the faculty are over 70% Haole. For Hawaiians, the situation is worse. 13 tenured Hawaiian faculty compared with nearly 660 tenured Haole faculty. This situation is called institutional racism.
A free Puerto Rico while holding the Puerto Rican flag.
Estimates of the numbers of shots fired range from 15 to 30.
Their goal, to demand people pay attention to Puerto Rico's colonial status under U.S. rule. Their message, Puerto Ricans craved independence and were willing to sacrifice their lives to get it.
I'm not sorry for what I did. I'm not sorry.
But wait, aren't Puerto Ricans U.S. citizens? So how did things become so extreme? Well, the answer isn't so simple.
Classic colony under American domination. Part of the United States Empire.
I will do what is necessary for the liberation of Puerto Rico.
The story of Puerto Rico is one filled with U.S. imperialism, exploitation, and secret surveillance by the FBI. It explains how the U.S. asserts its power with no regard for the locals of a country, and how it will do whatever it takes to stay in control. But it's also a story of unwavering resistance to U.S. colonialism. Take a look at this. It's the New York Puerto Rican Day Parade. What do you notice? maybe the hundreds of people waving, wearing, and dancing with the Puerto Rican flag. So can you believe that in the 50s, waving that flag meant risking up to 10 years in jail or a massive fine? It was part of US efforts to suppress independence movements on the island. See, this set of islands right here in the Caribbean, with over 3 million people spread across it and almost 6 million Puerto Ricans living in the continental US, was once a Spanish colony. Spanish colonialism in Puerto Rico involved the exploitation of the island's indigenous people, the Taino, and enslaved Africans brought there to mine gold. If you've ever heard a Puerto Rican refer to themselves as Boricua, it stems from the Taino word Borican, which is what the Taino called Puerto Rico. But after a brutal war over a century ago, Spain gave control of Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines to the US, expanding the US empire.
I swore allegiance to the fatherland under the guidance of Don Pedro Albizu Campos. I was living in New York at the time. Coming back to the Nationalist Party, can you say something about the ideology? The ideology of the Nationalist Party derives from the nationalist roots, set down by the father of the country, Don Ramon Emeterio Betances, father too of our Declaration of Independence. We stand, therefore, for the right to our own nationality. Nationalism in Puerto Rico represents the purest essence of the Puerto Rican nation. Was this a socialist independence? Or just independence? That's where you're mistaken. Don Pedro Albizu Campos is a man of such human and intellectual dimension that he could not conceive of a fatherland without social justice. Moreover, Don Pedro was one of the leaders of the social struggle in Puerto Rico, in the sense that he was the one who represented the workers in the cane strikes in the 1930s. Nevertheless, Don Pedro's idea was first and foremost the need to free Puerto Rico from the presence of foreign invaders and colonizers like the United States, and that once a republic had been created, the people of Puerto Rico would determine and define their political philosophy according to the democratic will of the people.
Los puertorriqueños no deben nacer. Los puertorriqueños no deben existir. Hay demasiados puertorriqueños en el mundo. Sí, pero cuando la aprietan las cabezas los yanquis, necesitamos los puertorriqueños. Echarle la mochila y para que se vayan a matar.
I got good babes in the UK, even the blind. See loose pain, he's a broke month. Hating a hustler for getting his bucks up, you dumb. Have no idea what I've been through. I'm a rich dude, so what's the issue? How can I convince you? In your trick crew, I'm official, they soft as issues. Been fools, buffoons who can't make a dollar. Living with they mama, hating cause of my powder. I'm in Bugana, no got a baby mama. Young, fresh and flashy, you dumb, stressed and ashy. She my plaything, you my state thing. We don't talk, the money say that.
You ain't never